where single dad janitor was laughed at. Translate this and my salary is yours. His reply stunned them. The fluorescent lights of Hammond Industries, corporate headquarters, buzzed overhead as Marcus Hayes pushed his mop across the marble floor. The rhythmic swish of water against tile marking another late night in his 10-year tenure as a janitor. At 42, his hands bore the calluses of hard labor. His uniform smelled faintly of cleaning chemicals, and his shoulders carried a weight far heavier than the mop bucket he dragged behind him. But none of that mattered when he thought about his daughter, Emma. Every floor he mopped, every trash bin he emptied, every toilet he scrubbed, it was all for her. A 7-year-old girl with pigtails and a gap-toothed smile that could light up the darkest corners of his world. She was his reason for waking up, his purpose for enduring, his everything. And tonight, like every night, he worked so she could have the childhood he never did. Marcus had learned to become invisible in this building. The executives in their tailored suits would breeze past him without a glance, their conversations filled with numbers and deals that seemed to exist in a different universe from his own. He didn't mind. Invisible meant safe. Invisible meant stable employment, health insurance for Emma, and a small apartment in Queens that they called home. His ex-wife had left when Emma was 2, unable to handle what she called a life of mediocrity. Marcus never saw it that way. He saw a life of purpose. On this particular Thursday evening in March, Marcus was finishing up the executive floor when he heard laughter echoing from the corner conference room. It was past 10 p.m., unusual for anyone to still be there. As he approached with his cleaning cart, he recognized the voices, 3 junior executives who had joined the company a few months ago: Brad Townsend, Kyle Morrison, and Jennifer Chen. They were part of the new innovative leadership program, fresh from elite business schools, armed with degrees and confidence that seemed to fill every room they entered. No way you can actually read that. Brad's voice carried through the partially open door. It's ancient Chinese. My girlfriend's grandfather wrote it before he died, and she's been trying to get it translated for months. The translation services want like $500. 500? That's my problem right there. Kyle laughed. Who pays $500 to read some old guy's journal? It meant something to her, Brad said defensively, though his tone suggested he shared Kyle's sentiment. Something about family history, his journey to America, whatever. I told her I'd figure it out. Marcus knew he should keep walking, should mind his business, and finish his shift. But something made him pause. His mop stilled against the floor. Hey, I have an idea. Jennifer's voice took on a mischievous tone. Why don't we ask the cleaning guy? I bet he'll take a shot at it. We could make it interesting. Tell him he can have one of our monthly salaries, if he can actually translate it. The laughter that followed made Marcus's jaw tighten. But it wasn't the mocking tone that bothered him most. It was the assumption. The assumption that someone who mopped floors couldn't possibly possess knowledge beyond a bucket and a broom. Marcus knocked on the doorframe. 3 surprised faces turned toward him. Sorry to interrupt, Marcus said quietly. I couldn't help but overhear. Did you say you needed something translated from Chinese? Brad smirked, exchanging glances with his colleagues. Yeah, actually. You know Chinese? I might be able to help, Marcus replied evenly. Kyle leaned back in his chair, a grin spreading across his face. Oh, this is perfect. Brad, show him. If he can actually translate this, he gestured dramatically, he can have my salary for the month. What do I make, like $8 grand after taxes? Deal, Brad said, pulling out his phone and opening a photo of an aged, handwritten document. The characters were faded but still legible, written in traditional Chinese script. My girlfriend's grandfather wrote this in the 1960s. If you can tell me what it says, $8,000 is yours. But it has to be accurate. I'll have it verified. The 3 executives watched, with barely concealed amusement, as Marcus sat down, his mop, and approached the table. He pulled reading glasses from his shirt pocket. Glasses he usually wore only when reading bedtime stories to Emma, and studied the phone screen. His expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Recognition, understanding, and something deeper, emotion. After a long moment, Marcus looked up. This isn't just any document. It's a letter, a very personal one. The room fell silent. Brad's smirk faltered. You can actually read it? May I? Marcus gestured to a chair. When Brad nodded, still too surprised to speak, Marcus sat down. And then he began to translate, his voice steady but soft, as if handling something precious. My dear descendants, if you are reading this, I have long since passed from this world. I write this not as a man of importance, but as one who has lived with purpose. When I arrived in America in 1958, I had nothing but the clothes on my back and a dream that my children would never know the hunger. I knew in China. I worked in laundromats, in restaurant kitchens, scrubbing pots until my hands bled. People laughed at me. They called me names I will not repeat here. But every insult, every slight, every moment of exhaustion, these were investments in your future. Marcus paused, his voice thickening. Jennifer had stopped smiling. Kyle had leaned forward, actually listening now. I want you to know that dignity is not found in titles or salaries. It is found in the work we do with our whole hearts, in the sacrifices we make for those we love. The man who cleans the floors, with pride, possesses more honor than the executive who cheats and lies. The woman who serves food with a smile holds more grace than the wealthy woman who looks down upon her. Judge people not by their position, but by their character. Respect those who labor, for they are the foundation upon which everything else is built. Marcus stopped reading, removing his glasses. The silence in the room was deafening. Brad's face had gone pale. Jennifer was staring at her hands. Kyle had the decency to look ashamed. There's more, Marcus said quietly, but that's the essence of it. Your girlfriend's grandfather? He sounds like he was a wise man. This letter is a treasure. Mr. Townsend, you should have it properly translated and framed. How? Brad's voice cracked. How do you know Chinese? Marcus stood, picking up his mop. I was a translator for the State Department for 15 years. Specialized in Mandarin and Cantonese. Worked on diplomatic missions, international agreements. I left when my daughter was born because the travel was constant. And after my wife left, Emma needed stability. She needed her father home every night, helping with homework, making dinner, reading bedtime stories. I found this job because it's steady, has good benefits, and ends at 10:30 p.m., which means I can see my daughter every morning and tuck her in every night. He paused at the doorway, looking back at three young executives who suddenly seemed very small in their expensive chairs. My daughter thinks I have the most important job in the world because I make everything clean and safe. She's 7, and she already understands something your girlfriend's grandfather learned through hardship. The value of honest work. I don't need your $8,000. Mr. Morrison, though that's more than generous. What I'd like is for you to donate that amount to the Queen's Children's Education Fund in your name. There are kids like Emma whose parents work multiple jobs to give them opportunities. That money could change a life. Marcus began to leave, but Brad's voice stopped him. Wait. The young man stood, his eyes red. I'm sorry. We were awful. You could have just walked away, let us be idiots. Why did you help? Marcus smiled, the lines around his eyes crinkling. Because that letter deserved to be honored, not mocked. And because your girlfriend deserves to know her grandfather's words. Some things transcend pride. The translation, Jennifer spoke up, her voice barely above a whisper. You should be paid for it properly, not as a joke, as a professional. If you'd like, I can provide a full written translation, Marcus offered. My normal rate is $200 for a document this size. The grandfather's wisdom alone is worth far more. Brad nodded vigorously, pulling out his wallet. I'll pay you $500. And the donation, I'll do that too. $8,000 to the education fund. He paused. Would you let me know when you've completed the full translation? I'd like to deliver it to my girlfriend properly. And I'd like to tell her about the man who translated it. The whole story. Over the next few weeks, word spread through Hammond Industries. Not gossip exactly, but a shift in the atmosphere. Executives who had never noticed Marcus began nodding hello. The CEO, upon hearing the story, invited Marcus to translate materials for the company's expansion into Asian markets, a consultancy that paid more in a month than his janitorial salary did in a year. Marcus accepted on the condition that he could still maintain his cleaning shifts. Consistency for Emma, he explained simply. But the most profound change came from the three young executives. Brad framed both his girlfriends, grandfather's letter and a photo of the donation, receipt to the education fund. He kept them in his office as reminders. Kyle began volunteering to tutor kids in Queens every Saturday. Jennifer started a company initiative to offer college scholarships to children of Hammond Industries, service staff. On Marcus's last night as a full-time janitor, he'd transitioned to part-time while building his translation business. Brad, Kyle, and Jennifer waited for him after his shift. "We wanted to say thank you," Brad said, "for teaching us something business school never did. You showed us that every person has a story, talents we can't see, sacrifices we'll never know about. You didn't owe us that lesson, especially not after how we treated you." Marcus shook his hand. "We all need humbling sometimes. The fact that you learned from it, that's what matters." As Marcus drove home that night, his phone buzzed with a text from Emma. "Daddy, Mrs. Rodriguez said you're going to be a translator again. I told everyone my daddy speaks secret languages and helps people understand each other. I'm so proud of you." Marcus pulled over, his vision blurring with tears. He typed back, "I'm proud of you, sweetheart. Everything I do, everything I am, it's because you showed me what truly matters. See you in the morning. Love you to the moon and back." In his rearview mirror, he could see the Manhattan skyline glittering against the night sky. Somewhere in one of those buildings, his mop bucket sat in a closet, a symbol of a chapter closing. But it wasn't an ending. It was a reminder. Dignity wasn't something conferred by a job title or a salary. It was something you carried inside. Something you demonstrated through character, sacrifice, and love. The man who had been invisible for 10 years had taught an unforgettable lesson. Never underestimate the person beside you. The janitor might speak 5 languages. The waitress might be writing a novel. The security guard might be a veteran who saved lives. Everyone has a story. Everyone has worth. And sometimes the greatest wisdom comes not from those in the corner offices, but from those who quietly, faithfully, lovingly do what needs to be done, for no other reason than love demands it. Marcus drove home to his daughter, to his small apartment in Queens, to his life of purpose. And he wouldn't have traded it for anything in the world.